Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Zdarsky. I am the college laboratory technician at CUNY Staten Island. I'm in the Department of Engineering, Earth, and Environmental Science. And this is my recording on the 5 supplemental technologies to assist students with high incidence disabilities. So I guess the first thing we want to do is define high incidence disability. A high incidence disability is a mild level of intellectual, behavioral, or emotional disability, but you're still regarded as able to go through the rigor of the general ed curriculum. This was originally identified in the Education Improvement Act of 2004. And the majority of small disabilities fall into this category. Um, I'm not sure if some of you are of a certain age. I'm an older student returning uh, to school for my master's degree in educational technology, and so I went through the school system in the 1980s before all of this was defined, well defined at least. And if you might possibly consider some as you look through some of these, think back and say, "Oh, maybe was I affected by this, or was one of these things a hurdle that you may have gone through yourself and not known it until today, now that it's been studied greater." And I can tell you, speaking for myself, there are a couple things here, and I will mention them through this little talk. The 3 major areas I chose to focus on. One is reading, for those students who have difficulty absorbing information via written text. That can be books, that can be a computer, that can be newspaper, could be a tablet, phone, whatever, what have you. Writing, written expression, for those who have difficulty putting concepts into words. So you may uh, have the knowledge that you've obtained, but you're having trouble translating it and regurgitating it back properly. Um, have students here, matter of fact, in that I'm working with currently here in some of our labs that have that exact problem. So we're working with them to try to help them correct that issue and work with that. And the last one I chose to go and look at is time management. Again, those who lose track of assignments can't complete them in a allotted time, whether that's a lab um, that I work with. Sometimes the labs are 2, 3 hours, and the student can't complete that lab during that time, partially because they get stuck on one particular part of the lab and don't look at everything as a whole. Same can be done as looked at as tests. If you're in a timed exam and you get stuck on a couple of questions, that could stop you up as well. So in the reading component, so there's many varying uh, parts to this area of disability, especially visual discrimination, auditory discrimination, and one of the things you can think of is not being able to understand and comprehend conceptual ideas within text. Uh, those conceptions can get quote unquote lost to the reader within paragraphs, keeping them from tying certain important concepts together. I can tell you from personal experience, when I was going through grade school, I often had trouble tying one paragraph to another at times, mostly because you're too busy concentrating or you're having trouble grasping concepts. I did get through that, believe it or not, and actually with some of the concepts that we'll talk about here. Um, and another part, some students are affected by auditory discrimination, which sounds and backgrounds keep them from concentrating reading material. Um, Again, many of these problems can be addressed by observing and addressing the student's preferred learning style. Sometimes students have trouble within their own learning style. It's preventing them from gaining that and absorbing that information. So one of the technologies we can look at is considered a light technology. So highlighter strips, again, this is a reading focus thing. It can come in many different colors. They'll separate key concepts and make information more digestible. And then you can easily find it again when if you go back trying to look for something instead of it falling into a sea of words. You can, oh, this color coordination matches up with this thought process, and I can tie these two things together. Back in the 1980s, I actually did this as a child with highlighter markers, and it worked very well. Didn't know it was a problem back then, but apparently it was something I used heavily. Audiobooks. It's another one that's a great alternative for students who have trouble focusing while reading and they're prone to distraction, possibly due to auditory discrimination issues. And you can enhance this by using things like noise canceling headphones, and it also blocks out distraction. And while talking about noise canceling headphones, uh, again, students with auditory discrimination problems, including myself, could benefit from noise canceling headphones. So, for instance, some students will also study better with light music playing in the background. And so some of these headphones are not just low-tech headphones. You have ones that can play low-light music in the background while at the same time you're blocking out the distraction, and they can continue to work. Me personally, I like dead silence, and that's my own preference to things. When there's too many things in the background, I have trouble focusing, and sometimes that could also be the case in a restaurant, and there's a lot of background noise. You have trouble hearing the conversation or listening to the person in front of you, and it can be very distracting. So you sometimes will hear a small piece of a conversation and lose part of the conversation, and then get back to it. And that can become frustrating, and you can lose a key thought or key component. The same is done while you're reading and concentrating. In the area of written expression, some students have difficulty translating information into concepts and words. Some have difficulty with their penmanship or typing on a keyboard. And so there's probably something that we might want to think about, something that hasn't necessarily a cognitive disability, but also there are things like physical disabilities. If you're an older student, like for instance, I'll use myself here, being 50 years old, I have arthritis really bad. And sometimes typing on a keyboard on something like a small tablet or a phone becomes tedious and painful. And that will also, that can be helped by speech to text. I use that quite often, and that can assist quite greatly. So one of the better or best programs with speech to text is Dragon. It's probably the one that's the most AI enhanced that I've seen. So again, it works well for those who can't use a keyboard, have other types of disabilities, or have bad penmanship. So it's versatile. It's got a 1,000,000-word vocabulary, so you can grow in your area of education, particularly in higher education like me, where I am. You may be exposed to vocabulary that's a little more complex, to your niche of study or your part, So therefore, some program like this might be useful. The Detractor it's a paid service, and it can be costly, $350 or more. There are other options available at low cost or sometimes no cost. And there's usually some less, often, but not always, less functionality with these services. But one of the most popular ones is part of the Google platform, and it does have a speak to text feature that's also very adaptable. And it works well in emails too. For instance, I have a professor I work with who cannot type at all because of physical disability. And he uses this function all the time to create emails and communicate. Another one is time management. This is the other wing I decided to focus on. There are students that are plagued by these issues, and they fail to submit assignments on time, and their grades suffer. It can be problematic also with long-term assignments, term papers, class projects, uh, timed examinations, and something I have a lot of experience with. I deal with, as a lab technician. I basically tech a lot of these labs many times throughout the day and evening, and the labs can last 2 or 3 hours. But for some students, that's not enough time, and they're concentrating on one particular part of the lab, and they're not completing the lab on time, or they're not submitting them on time. So for those that don't complete a lab on time, there are things such as like a timer or a reminder. There are electronic ones. Myself in the lab, I tend to call out every 20 minutes, half hour amount of time that's passed, so at least they know that maybe they should move on. If they're getting stuck with one concept, maybe they should move on to another concept or another part of the lab and then move back to it if possible. Um, Going back again to time management, on a different aspect of time management, things like planners. These are good for students, and then they're available on your phone and tablet, and some of them are actually part of your iPhone. They come with them. But there are also aftermarket ones, and ones that are on your computer as well. There's one here from my study life, and then they're good for students that have trouble remembering when certain papers are due, or reminders if they have a long-term assignment and they need to start working on that assignment before the rest of the semester comes and catches up to them, and then they have that last frantic week of the semester, and they have all this work that they put off and didn't realize that they lost track of time. And so they can keep them on task, and as to when these assignments are due, reports and projects, and then once again, multiple reminders, so there's no surprises. So every week that goes by, they get a reminder that they have to stay on task. So for those that are maybe in the K-12 system, or you want a light tech version, or they just want something that's on a piece of paper, there are physical planners, and there's one exactly made for students. It's a day planner, and it's actually called Day Planner, and it actually uses the hands of a clock. For those that are familiar with the hands of a clock, to see when they should be completing one part of an assignment, when they should start working on another part of assignment, when when to start finishing up. And so they can plan their entire day, whether it's class periods, um, or lessons, with this book. So again, in conclusion, there are many alternatives to and different levels of technology available to students living with high incidence disabilities, and then cope with these learning challenges, and they can achieve academic success while staying within the confines of the general education curriculum. And just want to thank everyone. Again, here are my references. And I'll put the second page up here as well. Just give me a second. Okay, again, I want to thank everyone for having a look at this, and take care.